Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eminence and welcome to Brand by Tidis. So in this tutorial we are going to be drafting this underburst corset top that you saw on my thumbnail, that video that make you click this, that thumbnail that made you click this video. We are going to be drafting it together. It's a really beautiful corset top that I think everybody should try, and it's really simple, so I think everybody should just try it. So before we dive right into this video, I want to mention that normally the intro of this video would be the finished look of this pattern of this top that we drafted together, but right now I can't really get access to the video or picture of the dress I made. It's on my system and it's very complicated, but I really want to put this video out here on Sunday, or if this video will go up on Monday, I don't know, but I just want to put this video out here and I don't want anything to stop me. So I'm just saying this for people who might be watching and feeling like, oh, she just drafted, will this pattern come out nice? It came out nice, like it was so beautiful. So don't worry, don't be scared, you can follow this pattern, but the sewing tutorial is going to be coming up as soon as possible, so you're going to see the finished look. So let's just get started with the video. Keep on watching. Thank you. So yeah, I have my top length. So you know that this top has like a V shape in the middle, so I have 20.5 inches. So what I did was I went down by 3 inches after my half length. That was how I got the 20 inches. And here I have my chest line, my nipple points, my underbust, my half length, and my top length. So you can see the labeling that I have on my pattern paper. So I'm just pointing this out for you. I also have my shoulder measurements and I took my armhole measurements, but yeah, I forgot to take my shoulder slanting. So please, when drafting your own pattern, make sure to take your shoulder slanting. Go down by 1 inch. This didn't really affect me too much. I realized this after I had gone deep into this tutorial and I didn't want to start all over, like it was really stressful, so I just continued like that, but it didn't really affect my pattern. But I'm just saying that make sure you add your own shoulder slanting. So now this is the basic bodice that I drafted, and let's just start with the main tutorial. So the first thing that you're going to do is to take your nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8, so divided by 2 is 4. So as you can see in the video, I'm just taking 4 inches from the nipple point to the top length, and I'm just going to mark a straight line like you see me doing right now. Now after doing this, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides, where on the top length. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm taking half an inch on both sides of the darts. Now I'm going to come down by 1 inches at the nipple point, and I'm just going to mark like that. From there, I'm going to connect it to the half inches I took at the top length. Now after doing that, the next thing to do is to take the neck depth. So here I'm just using 8.5 inches. I went down by half inches after my chest line. So after doing that, I went in by 1/4 of an inch. So take note that I'm not using half inches, I'm using 1/4 of an inch. I don't really like using half inches because half inches sometimes can be too wide. After you open it, it becomes 1 inch. So for me, I feel like it's just too wide, so I always use 1/4 of an inch. The next thing I did here was to take my bust measurement. So divided by 4 is 9, so I just mark 9 right here. Now what we are going to do next is to make the cup curve that we have on the dress, you know, the white parts. So I'm going to take my nipple to underbust measurement, and this is 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to mark it like you see me doing. I'm going to mark this line to the nipple points, and I'm going to use a free hand to connect it to my neckline. So that marking, that 2.5 inches was just like a guide for me to connect it. So you can see what I did. I used my armhole curve to connect it like this. Now after doing that, on the other side, I'm going to we know we have 1 inches here, so I'm just going to take 0.25 basically, and I'm going to take 3.5 inches on this point at the nipple point line. 3.5 inches, because the bust is always fuller at this part of the side. So I'm taking 3.5 inches, and after I take 3.5 inches, I'm just going to connect it to my underbust. So here I'm just like using what to allow me to easily connect it to the underbust, if that makes sense. But you can just add 1 inches to what you have from your nipple point to underburst, add 1 inches to that measurement. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm just going to connect this so you can see what we have here. Can you see what we have? So this is the cup. Now the next thing that we are going to do is to take the neck width, and here I'm using 3 inches. So this is me just trying to give it a little bit of shoulder slanting, so don't copy this style, just do what I asked you to do at the beginning of this video. So I took 3 inches for the neck width, and I'm just going to make a straight line connecting it to the neck depth that we took initially. So I'm just going to connect it to that point. Yeah, so this is what we have. Now the next thing that we are going to do, I'm taking my armhole. I was not even supposed to take my armhole at this point, but so I took my armhole curve here. But the next thing that we are going to do is to add seam allowance for the shoulder. So I'm just adding 1/2 inches seam allowance at the shoulder like this. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm following the slant and adding my shoulder seam allowance. So that was why I added 1/2 inches when I was taking the top length. That was why I had 20.5 inches, if you remember. So this is what we have. Now the next thing we are going to do is to take our bust measurements, waist measurements, and hip measurements. So I'm going to take 9 inches and I'll add 1.5 inches for seam allowance. After doing that, I'm going to go to the half length. This will also serve as my waist, and I'll take my waist measurements, and I'm going to measure what I have inside that dart. So here I have almost 1 inches, I think. I'll mark that, and I'll also add 1.5 inches for seam allowance. Now after doing that, we are going to go to the waist, to the top length, and here we are going to take our hip measurement divided by 4. I can't really remember what I have here, but I took my hip measurement divided by 4, and I measured what I have inside that dart, and what I had was 1 inches or 1.25, I don't know. So I marked that, and I added 1.5 inches for seam allowance. So after doing this, I'm just going to connect the lines together. This is what we have. Now the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to come to the half length, and I'm just going to go down by 1.5 inches just to give it a little bit of shape. I don't want the slanting to start directly from the waist. I want it to come down by 1 inches. Trust me, it's always more finer when you do that. So I'm just going to come down by 1.5 inches. So 1/2 inches is for seam allowance, and 1 inches is just me coming down, if that makes sense. So before slanting it, we are going to remove the dart and close it. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to cut this pattern that we just drafted. I'm going to cut it out. So this was when I was supposed to take my armhole. Like, this is me just realizing this. I'm so sorry about it. So I'm just going to take my armhole curve here and cut it. So after cutting, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you cut your cup out before removing the darts. Make sure to cut your cup out first. That's the first thing you need to do. You can see my mistake. So make sure to cut your cup out first. So after cutting, I went ahead to remove the darts. Like, the pattern paper was just moving around, so I did this off camera, but I removed the darts and I used a tape to close it back. So after doing that, I'm just going to take my slanting from the waist to the middle point. So I'm going to do that now, and you're going to see it. I closed the darts. In case you are wondering what I did here, I cut it out, closed the darts, I removed the darts, and I closed it back, because I don't want to add any darts when sewing. I don't want to add any dart. I just want to sew it like that. So when cutting on fabric, you're just going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top. You don't need to add any seam allowance around it. Just add half-inch seam allowance at the top. That's just all you need to do. Really simple. So that's what we are going to do when cutting on fabric. Now for the upper part, this part that looks like a cup, like a bust cup or something, we are going to do the slash and spread method so that we can get the pleating that is around that area. So we are going to do that right now, and to do that we are going to go to the shoulder part of this cup and we are going to divide it by 4. So as you can see, I've divided it by 4 and I'm just going to mark. So now I'm going to take a straight line downward, and this is the line that we are going to slit open in order to get the excess or pleats inside. So I'm going to slit it open right now. So after slitting, I'm going to take on a new pattern paper and I'm going to open it. So I open it by 1 inches. So I have 1 inches inside the spaces that you can see. I have 1 inches in it. So you're supposed to add ½ inches at the cup area. You're supposed to add ½ inches, but I didn't add for mine because the white fabric that I'm using is a little bit stretchy and I don't think I really need that excess. So I'll advise you to add ½ inches around the cup if you are not using a fabric that is stretchy. So just do that. So after that, make sure that you label your neckline because the armhole for this cup and the neckline is looking similar, so you don't want to get yourself confused. So make sure to label it as the neckline and make sure to label it as the left because you don't want to make mistakes. It's very, very important. Now moving on to the back, what I have here is my bodice, just like I did for at the beginning of this video. Yes, what I have is my bodice. So you can see I did not still take my shoulder slanting, although the fabric was not, the pattern paper was not enough, so don't judge me. Now this is me labeling this, and the only difference I think with this pattern that I drafted is that it has a zipper and the zipper is 1.5 inches. So now we'll take our bust measurements and you take this measurement after your zipper allowance. So you take the bust measurement divided by 4 and add 1.5 inches for seam allowance. You do the same thing for the waist, only that you are going to add that allowance. So add that allowance plus 1.5 inches allowance. For the hip measurement, you also do the same thing. So add 1.5 inches and add that allowance add that allowance 1 inches that allowance, sorry. So just add it. I'm also going to draft out the dart so that you don't get confused. Now the next thing I'll do is to take my armhole. I know that you guys are familiar with this, like it should be simple, right? Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is to take the neckline. So make sure you take 3 inches after your zipper. All this measurement that we are taking, you want to make sure that you take it after your zipper. So this is me taking my shoulder slanting, and you can see that the pattern paper is not enough to add my seam allowance for my shoulder. So I'm going to do that when I want to cut it on fabric. So from there, from the neck width that we take, I'm going to take a slant line to the chest line. As you can see, this is basically 8 inches. So you can just take a slant line like I did in the video. See me, I'm just writing this so that I can remember to add ½ inches when cutting on fabric. Now I'm just trying to draft out the dart so that you can see. I drafted this dart to the nipple points, but I don't really like taking my dart to the nipple points. I always like to take it to the chest line completely. I don't like to take it halfway, if that makes sense. Like when I was sewing this dart, I did the dart completely to the chest line. I always like it that way. That's what I'm trying to say. So So yeah, this is what we have. So we are almost done. So I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches at the half length, just like I did for the front part. So can you see, just 1.5 inches like this, and I'm going to take a slant line to the middle. So this is what we have. So now I'm just going to fold the zipper area inward, and I'm going to cut this out. So we're almost done with this video. So you can see what I said at the beginning of this video. This top is very simple and very chic and very beautiful. So you should try it out and keep it in your wardrobe. Although I was making this for a client, but try it out and put it in your wardrobe. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out, and you know that for the top, the upper part is white, so we are going to divide this back that we just drafted. We are going to divide it into two. So I'm just going to slant it open from at the chest line area. You see me doing that right now. So this part that I just cut out will be white, and yeah, I'm just trying to remove the neckline. So can you see what we have? So when cutting on fabric, what you are going to do is to add ½ inch seam allowance at the top of this pattern that I'm holding right now. You're going to add ½ inch seam allowance there. I'm going to explain this in my next video, so not to worry. But this is the end of this tutorial. This is the pattern. You can see it's very simple, very simple. I also want to mention that I've not been posting recently, but I have a lot of videos for you guys. Like, I've been working on clients' clothes, and although I've been filming, but I've not been able to edit, so don't worry. I'm going to try and post those videos. Like, those videos are really interesting and you guys are going to love it. So if you want to see those videos, make sure to click the notification bell and subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment if you have any question. I'm going to reply you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming back. Make sure to like this video as well. I would really appreciate if you guys like this video. So this is the material that I'm using for this tutorial. Can you see that it's really nice? Can you see? Like, it came out really beautiful. I really love this dress. I wish it was mine though. Okay, bye.